Hi, everybody. It's immigration lawyer John Kasravi. Thank you for coming again and watching and listening to our podcast, episode 175. A really good one with a close friend and colleague, Claribel Madueña, up in Northern California. Great attorney, and I always like having her input and stuff, especially because she contributed a great article and future articles to the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox magazine, which you can get at immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com/magazine. And we're going to just go into her article, her background, and what her plans are for 2021. I want to thank sponsors for the magazine, Journey, Translate, Immigration Finder, and DACA. DACA are one of our best supporters, and I really appreciate all the help that they do for the program and all the help they do for all immigration attorneys with their wonderful software that creates a convenient service to be able to communicate with clients and get the cases done. If you want 10% off their annual plan, please visit www.docwise.com/immigration-lawyers-podcast, and the code is Immigration Lawyers Podcast to get that additional 10% off. So with that, thank you so much for joining us. Let me get you on screen. How are you doing today?
Hey, John, thank you. Thanks for having me. Congrats on the launch of your magazine. It looks great. There's so many resources in there.
Yeah, it was. I bit off a little more than I could chew. I thought it was going to be easier than it was. I was going to do it monthly, but after this, I'm like, oh, we'll do a seasonal. Like a better system. But you're so kind to include an article, and it's going to be multi-parts and stuff about one thing you know really well, because you are a specialist in immigration law, certified by California State, and one thing you know really well is removal and a lot of issues that pop up with there. Let's talk about what you submitted. What was it about? And obviously, people could go to the magazine to see it. But what drove you to choose that topic?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been practicing immigration law for over 10 years now. And I remember when I first started, it was I worked for a practitioner who did a lot of removal defense. And so a lot of our cases were cancellation of removal cases, right? Yeah. So for individuals that were in immigration court, they were trying to defend against deportation or removal, they would file 42B or cancellation of removal applications. And specifically, that's for individuals who are either legal permanent residents or non-permanent residents. I mostly saw a lot of non-permanent resident cancellation cases, and we have to, one of the main requisites is proving continuous physical presence. Now, if your client is a legal permanent resident, it could be 7 years. And then if your client is a non-permanent resident, it's 10 years. And so over the years, there's so many pitfalls in terms of documentation, your client's recollection about dates. And so when I was thinking about writing this article, I remember thinking, okay, you know what? Cancellation of removal cases have so many different components to it. Let's break it down. And you mentioned earlier the series. And so I figured, okay, the first part of the series will focus on how to prove continuous physical presence. And so that's kind of the genesis of that idea and the article.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. Yeah, it's something it's really tricky, and as you said, there's pitfalls involved. Because a lot of people who are doing non-LPR versions of it intentionally didn't keep any documentation. So then it's kind of like DACA too. You got to dig to find something. Yes. I think a lot of the contact about DACA, it's surprising how many people could have used it at the time. Didn't. I'm not aware of there's other opportunity for another try at it. But a lot of people who contact me who hadn't submitted before is because they just didn't have the documentation then, and it might happen now, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make such a great point, because that's what we're running into with DACA cases that we are submitting for the first time, initials. And, you know, back when DACA first came in 2012, right, it was documenting, it was less years of documentation, but now we're talking about all the way to 2020. And so it's really hard to get those documents. And like you said, there's a lot of evidence that you have to submit to prove, because it's your burden to prove that you're eligible for the relief that you're seeking.
They did pretty friendly about it. I mean, like at first we're worried about every month and stuff like that, especially there's one requirement that they have to be here on a certain date, like the 15th of December. I don't remember what it was exactly.
Yeah, I think it's June 15th, 2007. Is that the date?
June 15th. I can't remember the year, but it was probably 2007. But it was always like, oh, are they going to accept that we have something from like May and then something a month later?
Right.
we weren't too strict about it. But what direction is we're going? I mean, we're in February already, and I mean, the world of immigration is already static because of the new president. And then we got in today, this morning, I think it was, or last night. I I read the first 30 pages and I fell asleep. I was at like 11 o'clock at night. I was reading it, and I just got through constantly talking about they're changing non-citizen, alien to non-citizen. And I was just reading through that, and then I was like, "Oh, this is getting boring. I want the meat and potatoes." I fell asleep at that point. But a huge shift. Are you getting calls about this from people asking like, "Hey, Biden's new law here," and stuff like that?
I've had my current clients are consistently, asking, is there a law that's going to help me? And I have gotten new inquiries from individuals who aren't my clients, but it's a lot of wait and see, right? Yeah. Because nothing really has been implemented, and it's going to take time. And I'm desperate for certain things to be available to us again. For example, prosecutorial discretion and administrative closure in certain cases in removal court, right? Sure. So it's a lot, and I think DACA was the kind of more hot topic, right? Where individuals like, hey, can I apply? And so those have been the most inquiries that our office has been fielding.
Yeah, but you said it. Practically speaking, administrative closure, prosecutorial discretion, that's the big one. I saw. I was watching TikTok, and one of our colleagues posted the ICE new discretionary rules on like priorities and stuff. And so that was really nice. It seems like there's some flexibility there to focus on the people that really should focus on. Hopefully it's something easy for them to do. It's just a flip of the switch for them to just tell the prosecutors that we're going to open this up. Because DOJ, it's their own people, it's their own court, so they do what they want.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree, and I really hope that we see it the policy really be implemented and put into practice, because as you said, I think the memo came out earlier this week, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so here's hoping. I have some trials that I don't want to go forward with because I'm waiting for admin closure.
It is. There's so many different things from the immigration court that have to be undone, just madness, and a lot of BIA decisions, and it's all going to take time and will to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, in the meantime, it's kind of like, well, we have to work under the current rules, however oppressive and, unfair they are. And always, taking it back to the evidence, it's like just try and document everything as best as you can. And a tip that I didn't write it in the article, but it's just like start early, right? Start collecting things early, start getting your clients. A lot of our clients, they want to help and they want to collaborate with you. And so it's important to kind of put in their mind, explain the rule really clearly and say, I know it's a pain. I'm asking you for all these documents. I have clients who like, oh, I didn't know DACA was going to be this hard to document. And it's like, yeah, imagine our job putting everything together. So, I think that's one of the biggest things that we can do for our clients. It's like explain the rules, tell them what we need, why we need it, and to go get it as soon as they can. And what's complicating things further, COVID, right? They can't get school transcripts because schools are limited or they're closed. And so it's a big old mess.
I mean, speaking of documents, I know both of us are in the search and housing market in California. As self-employed people, it's been so difficult getting the paperwork together. And I thought we were difficult on this like 7-year presence, that those guys want, the banks and underwriters want so much documentation. So it's almost worse.
Seriously. Yeah. They want your underbelly exposed, really. It's when they're asking you for all these things. And so it is a challenge. But thankfully now with technology, things are they can be a little bit easier for us and for our clients, but it's definitely some heavy lifting that has to be done.
Yeah, every once in a while I had one 240, which is good. Get any documentation of being here in like 2001. Nothing. It was like, no, we didn't do something, but it's like, oh man, it would have been a perfect 245. I'm not gonna have to do a parole DACA or potentially a waiver if needed. So I'm like, I just want to do it. Hopefully they change the rules or you get a parole. But 2001, people weren't doing as much technology kind of stuff. So in one sense, it's really much better now that we have paper trails and email histories.
That's a great point. Yeah. So, we'll see. Hopefully, more people will be able to get some relief.
Now, you've been an expert when it comes to, but also you do more than Are you seeing calls on different kinds of things, not just, but I know you do family cases and you do waivers a lot too.
Yeah, I do a lot of, most of the meat and potatoes of my practice is family-based immigration. So as you said, I do a lot of waivers. I also do a lot of, I really love the cross-section between criminal law and immigration law. So if someone is a resident, a legal permanent resident, they've had problems before, say they've been arrested a long time ago, but they want to become a US citizen. So, you know, I love to do the naturalization type of cases, and those are fun because I think a lot of the times legal permanent residents will think that they don't qualify to become a US citizen, but when I examine their criminal record, I'm like, oh, this is fine. You know, we can apply, but you have to remember, you know, to look at everything very thoroughly and to document everything really, really well, because it is a lot of immigration, as you know, is discretionary based. And so we have to outweigh the negative factors with the positive factors.
It always, I have, especially in California, like both get the California Department of Justice report, the Cal DOJ, and the federal one. Because I've seen like inconsistencies, missing stuff, or sometimes the ad stuff's not even there with the correct. I once did, the federal one, and then they said he was a citizen in there, and we found out the police officer didn't bother asking if he's a citizen or not, just wrote citizen. We were able to fix that, but you know, these kind of things can be disastrous.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I actually have a client who they booked him for, he was arrested for, I think it was battery, 243E, cohabitation, spousal battery, California Penal Code, but it's entered as 273.5 domestic violence, which, as you know, makes you inadmissible for 42B cancellation. It's a deportable ground.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're, you know, we know that he wasn't arrested for that, but we're calling the sheriffs, we're calling all these different agencies, and all they can tell us is, oh, someone, when they were booking him, they must have entered the wrong code. But, you know, I have the judge and the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, telling me, well, show us that it's a mistake. How do I do that? You know, these government agencies aren't really, they're not excited to help you, you know, correct things.
So in San Francisco, how is it going? Because the shutdowns there are one of the worst ones in the country, where they shut down the whole city all of a sudden. How are delays going on at the field offices?
You know, it's taking forever. I have clients who we file straightforward adjustment of status, one-step adjustment cases back in February of last year, still waiting on interview dates. Wow. So, you know, but you know, according to the processing times, USCIS, we're within processing time frames. It's 14 months to 34 months. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, you're probably dealing with it too. It's frustrating for our clients, but we're also like, we're dealing with the agency. We're trying to, you know, tell our client that we're really doing everything that we can, but it's so slow. And also the courts, they've been rescheduling a lot of my trials, a lot of my master calendar hearing dates, but I do have 2 individual or trials coming up in April, and it kind of is, it feels a little bit unfair because you have to prepare, and you know how heavy it is to prepare for certain trials, and then if it gets rescheduled all of a sudden, then okay, just kidding, next time.
Doing it all over again.
Yeah, and things get stale. So huge backlog field offices and unpredictability in terms of scheduling with the EOIR, with the immigration court.
The whole issue of it becoming stale is so important, like, because it just happens when you come to aside for 6 months, 9 months, have to revisit. It happens when clients take forever to get those documents. It's kind of like, it's not fresh on the mind, little nuances that exist.
Yes, 100%. And trying, you know, and if things happened a long time ago, so like you said, people don't remember as well, maybe that goes to credibility issues, you know, or like, oh, well, in your declaration that you wrote and signed 6 years ago says this, but today you're testifying to this. So
that's one thing it's kind of more and more noxious, especially during Trump's time. The officers are starting to get more and more, like in my marriage case, into the details of the relationship, and they want the exact date they first met. And the exact date the first, I'm like, who knows? You don't memorize that. I just remember, oh yeah, it was summer, I graduated that year. And it's like, the things they want to know exact, it's like, I just prep my clients to go figure out what day of the calendar was to memorize it. But realistically, if someone did remember that, unless it was like 4th of July or some sort of iconic milestone kind of day, who's going to remember that like kind of stuff? So it's pretty annoying if that's what they go by for trying to say something is authentic or not.
Yeah, and you make such a great point, and I hope that the culture is going to change a bit, because things were getting rejected for really minute reasons, like the whole, if you don't fill in a blank box with NA, then your whole application gets rejected, and it's kind of like, so I'm really hoping now with Biden Harris in office, they're going to be a little bit more fair, right? Yeah, reasonable. Thank you. Yeah.
Work for them to send it back and forth. It's just like it's just such a mess. But I mean, optimism is there. They got this bill out today. I mean, who knows if that's going to actually happen, because it's asking for a lot of goodies in there. But we'll see what happens. But in California, immigration practice is always going to be busy. It's stated as part of the immigration system. So Northern California, Southern California, it's just nonstop. The problem is just the clients can't get legal help. They don't know to get legal help a lot of time, or sometimes can't afford it. But that's why these resources are here. So like, people kind of read this stuff, what's going on with their case, not individual legal, but obviously learn about what 42B is. Even regular people can access the magazine, and then other lawyers can learn. So there'll be more attorneys out there that could do this kind of stuff. I have never done a cancellation removal case myself. I've done. When you do asylum, that's not cancellation, it's withholding removal. What is that? When you file asylum and do all the, so I filed an asylum court when I first started, and then my boss like, oh, you have to file CAT and this too. I'm like, okay, we said all of them, but we got the asylum, didn't go that far. But people need to know this stuff, especially in practice. So I'm gonna thank you so much for being this resource.
Yeah, thanks for asking me to be a part of it, and congrats again. It's such an excellent resource, and I wish this was around when I first started practicing. So I think it's going to help a lot of people.
I appreciate it. I look forward to the next article. It's going to be out. Do you have the title fixed yet, or is it going to be a surprise?
Well, I'm really, it's kind of boring, but I'm just going down by the list, right? So it's first thing, prove continuous physical presence. Second would be that someone, I think it's good moral character. You haven't been convicted of certain crimes that would make you ineligible. So that'll be kind of a fun one to do, because I think criminal law is really, really interesting, especially when it interplays with immigration. So
for sure, one of the most complex part of immigration law.
Yes.
Again, I don't even dabble in it, because I'm like, I got to pay attention way too much.
You're too busy educating everyone on immigration, so we forgive you.
And speaking of that, we did do a CLE course, which breaks down basics of immigration for beginners from A to Z, really breaking down everything they need to know. He went out like an hour and a half too, so it's wonderful. If you're not interested in that, just reach out to me, info@immigrationtoolbox.com. I'll send you that. It's $25, and it's California CLE credit that comes with it as well. And about like states specific with California CLE, so it's the added bonus right there. But Claribel, stay on the line. I just want to say goodbye to everyone. Thank you for listening. I don't to but I appreciate it coming out. If you want to reach out to you, are there particular email address or social handles you'd like them to reach out through?
Yeah, so I can be reached via email. It's my name, Claribel, at claribellaw.com. Only one L, it's a play, so claribelaw.com. They can reach me there. My website is claribellaw.com as well.
Thank you, Claribel. I appreciate it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.